Hello, future rich bitches. Today we're going to talk about the 3 biggest money mistakes I made in my 20s, so hopefully you can avoid them in your finance journey. So, when I graduated from my MBA program in 2014, I was like, oh, I'm an MBA, everybody's gonna wanna hire me and the money is just gonna start rolling in. I will be wealthy in no time. And I was very wrong about that. So I quickly learned after graduating that it takes much more discipline and time to become wealthy, and your salary doesn't really dictate how wealthy you can be. It's more about your money habits, no matter what your salary is. So on this journey to figure out, what do rich people do differently than our regular, everyday, middle-class Americans that makes them able to become financially stable and eventually rich. And what I found out was that most people who are rich, really, they just spend less money than they make, and they learn to deploy their money in ways so that it can make money for them without them, having to spend time making money like we think about in our regular 9-to-5 job. Once I figured that out, I was like, well, what am I doing or what do I need to do differently in order to get to that point where I am financially stable and eventually rich? So the first thing that I realized was that I needed to start contributing to my 401k. And the biggest money mistake I made was not contributing as soon as I was offered the ability to do that at my first job out of college. So I waited about 1.5 years actually to start contributing to my 401k, which may not seem like that long, but that's 15% of my 20s, and I was already 24 at this point in my life. So why is this important? Well, really because of compound interest. And compound interest means that not only are you making interest on the money that you're contributing to your 401k, but you're also making money on the interest that you've already earned. And this works basically if you contribute $1,000 to your 401k and then you make a 10% return. By the end of that year, you're gonna have $1,100. But in year 2, you're gonna also make 10% on that $100 you earned the year before. So at the end of year 2, you're actually gonna have $1,210. And while $10 might not seem like that much money, this snowballs over time. And so let's think about this on like the grand scheme, because if you start investing in your 20s in a retirement account, you're not going to pull that money out until you're 60. So what happens and how does that snowball as you get older? So if you start contributing $100 a month at 20 and do this until you're 60 and receive a 10% annual return, you're going to have $632,000 when you're 60. And $584,000 of that is going to be made from compound interest that you didn't even have to contribute. So that's an insane amount of money and just shows how much you can really build wealth if you put a little bit away, let some time pass, and let that money work for you. That's what rich people do. So if you were 30 and started this and skipped the first 10 years of investing from 20 to 30, you would only have $226,000 when you turn 60. So, that's still good, but you miss out on $406,000 from the 10 years of investing that you skipped. So, well, that 1.5 years that I spent shopping or going on vacations and not wanting to contribute, was super detrimental to the amount of compound interest I could make. So if you haven't started contributing to your 401k yet, start immediately. I'm going to put some links below for some articles on how you can start a retirement account, the difference between some of them, and you can start letting your money accumulate and become a rich bitch, which is what we all want, isn't it? Mistake number 2 that I made was, as my income increased and I got raises, which was awesome, I kept spending more and more and increased my expenses just as much as my salary increases. So when I first started out after college, my salary was not that great, but I quickly was promoted and had doubled my salary within just a couple of years. So with each of those salary bumps, I was excited and I was like, yes, I deserve this. And I would shop and I would plan vacations, or I'd move into a more expensive apartment. And while all of that was really fun, and it appeared on the outside that like, oh, she's making it, she must, you know, be secure in her finances, I was no more secure than when I started on my first job in that tiny salary, because I was spending in both cases just as much as I earn. And no matter what your salary is, if you spend it all and don't save or invest any of it every paycheck or year or whatever time frame you want to look at, you're living paycheck to paycheck. It doesn't matter how much you make. So a person who makes $250K a year that spends all of it, doesn't save or invest, is living paycheck to paycheck the same way that a person who makes $30,000 a year is and spends all of it is living paycheck to paycheck. They may be buying different things. 250K lady, she might have a nicer car, but she is no more financially stable than 30K lady. That's because if either of them loses their job, it doesn't matter how nice their stuff looks on the outside or how ritzy they appear to be, they're not going to be able to pay for their mansion or their apartment or their Tesla. Teslas are popular right now. 250K is not going to be able to pay for her Tesla, and 30K is not going to be able to pay for her Corolla. So it doesn't matter what you're buying, you're still living paycheck to paycheck. Financial security means that if you see a large dip in your income, you can ride that out for a few months and you don't need to modify your lifestyle much, and you can pay all of your bills. And the way that you do that is by creating a savings. And the best way to do this is to automate the process and just say, okay, every paycheck, I'm gonna funnel it automatically, never see it hit my bank account, into this savings account. And you should be striving for about 3 to 6 months of expenses in that account, so that if you lose your job or you have an unforeseen large expense, then you have that money there so that you can use it in case of an emergency, and you don't have to worry about losing your car or your house or not eating or whatever that is. So that was a huge mistake I made at first. Was, it's nice to get raises and we want to spend all of our money because, well, that's much more fun, but it really does put you in a really bad position. And having a high yield savings account not only allows you to have this financial stability, but you also earn interest. Again, letting your money work for you. Welcome to the life of rich people. Put that savings in a high yield savings account and let that interest accumulate in there. It's going to be small, but hey, free money is free money. And then you're secure and you're making more money. Mistake number 3, my husband won't agree with this, but letting him buy an expensive car straight out of college. So he had always talked about, oh, I want this Subaru WRX STI. And so then fine, he graduates and he gets a job and I'm like, well, duh, he deserves it. Terrible decision. We ended up spending over $30,000 on this car, and we're still paying high monthly payments on the debt that we took out to pay for this. And on top of that, we also have student loans that we're paying. So we do have technically a healthy debt to income ratio, but that's a lot of money every month that's going to pay for our loans that we could be using to invest. Remember when we talked about how important it is to invest early? Well, that's less money that we can be using to do that and for compound interest. I just really regret that we spent that much money on this car. In terms of our debt, so what I don't regret is our student loans. And that's because I consider student loans to be an appreciating asset. And that's because appreciating assets just mean it's something that it goes up in value over time. So I think that, over time, we're expecting to make higher salaries and more money, and the amount of growth that we'll see in that is going to far exceed the amount of interest that we're going to end up spending on the loans that we took out for our education. So I don't regret those. I consider that money well spent. My husband's car, not so much. So cars are technically considered an asset, but they're a depreciating asset, and that means that they go down in value over time. And so if you take out a loan for a car, you're basically saying, okay, I agree to pay the sticker price. I think that's what the car is worth. But then I'm also gonna lose more money and pay a higher price based on what I'm gonna end up paying in interest over the life of the loan. And my car price is gonna go down over the whole time that I'm paying for it. So when I sell it, I'm not gonna recoup any of that extra money that I paid, which is the worst scenario that you can put yourself in. So not only did we buy this crazy expensive car, but we're losing more money on it and we're never gonna be able to make it back. So worst decision ever, but you live and you learn. If you do need a car, like people drive to work and things, like better to have a car so you can make money, but unless you like basically desperately need a car, you get in a wreck or something and you have to buy a new car, then don't take out a loan for it. If you can avoid it, do it at all costs, because you're gonna lose more money and end up paying more than you want for the car that you're gonna get. What you can do instead is say, okay, I know I wanna buy a car soon. What's the trade-in value of my car? And then compare that to the car that you think you want. Around what price is that gonna be? And then start saving for the difference, so that then you can pay for the car in cash. You're not gonna lose any additional money to interest, and then you can use that extra money that you save by not paying interest on this depreciating, money-sucking asset to invest and do things that are gonna, grow your wealth, and by appreciating assets so you can continue to build wealth and passive income. So those are the 3 biggest money mistakes I made in my 20s. And another thing I want to point out is that a lot of people don't make moves with their money because they know about the mistakes that they've made in the past. And people regret taking out student loans. They regret not investing soon enough. They regret all these things, about what got them into their current financial situation. So they stop and they're like, well, I'm gonna make more mistakes if I do anything, so I'm going to do nothing. And that comes from a place of guilt. And there are people who studied finance in high school and started investing in high school off of their high school jobs and stuff, who are gonna make way more money than I'm gonna ever make off of compound interest, but that didn't stop me from starting at the point that I was at. So don't let not being one of the first or one of the best at whatever it was financially stop you from making the moves you know you need to make. The guilt that you're feeling about that means that you're not gonna make that mistake again. You're gonna make other ones, so am I. But don't let that guilt hold you back. You feel that means you learn from your mistake. You're not gonna make that mistake again, and I can tell you what, not making any moves with your money to try and become a rich bitch is going to hurt you far more than any of the minor mistakes you will make along the way. Whatever it is that you need to start doing with your money, start it today. I'll put some links below for how to start a savings, how to start your retirement account, and some more information about how to use debt the right way so that you can become educated on how you can become a rich bitch, and we can all start living these fabulous lives. Because once you're building that passive income, earning that compound interest, and you've got your financial stability from your savings, then the world is yours. I hope that this helped you and you'll avoid some of the same mistakes that I made. So thanks so much for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe below so that every week you can get the best tips and tricks on how to become a rich bitch. And I will see you next Saturday. Have a great weekend. Bye.